My name is Charlotte Brown, and at 38 years old, my sister betrayed me and married my millionaire fiancé. 7 years later, she bragged she had it all. I smiled back. Have you met my husband yet? If you have ever felt betrayed by the people who should have been your biggest supporters, let me know where you are watching from. You know when you're going to face something you fear, but you have a gut feeling that the universe is about to reveal a tremendous, unmistakable truth. That was me standing at my mother's burial, my heart heavy with grief, but a weird, disturbing calm washed over me as I prepared for her entrance. 7 years. It's been 7 hard years since Odora, my own sister, snatched Darius, my betrothed millionaire, and the man I thought would be my entire future. I haven't seen one of them since that day. But when they eventually stepped in, Odora, flaunting that big diamond ring with her typical smug smile, had no idea who was there to greet her. And believe me, the expression on her face when she discovered who I had married was priceless. My mother was always the center of our family, the glue that held everything together. Growing up in a small house outside of Boston, Mom instilled in me the values of strength and dignity. Our bond was special. It just became deeper with each year. Even after I moved into my own apartment in downtown Boston and began my work as a marketing executive, I contacted her practically daily. She was my confidant, counsel, and biggest booster. So when Mom was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer 8 months ago, my world completely disintegrated. Despite extensive therapies, we realized time was running out. But my mother faced it all with remarkable grace, more concerned with us than her own pain. Her final weeks were spent peacefully, surrounded by loved ones at the home where Mom raised us. She went away, clutching my hand and promising that I would find serenity in my life. 6 years previously, when I was 31, my life appeared to be great on paper. I had a career, friends, and a great apartment. But there was something missing. I worked 62-hour weeks and dated periodically, but nothing substantial ever happened. Then, through my college buddy Alina, I met Darius Rowan at a charity event. Darius was engaging, charming, had great teeth, and exuded confidence that permeated the entire room. At 37 years old, he had become a self-made digital millionaire. He was exactly the type of success story that publications coveted. Our connection was instant. We both enjoyed art, traveling, and setting lofty goals. I contacted my mother after our first date, which took place at an expensive restaurant overlooking the water. "Mom," I exclaimed, "I've met someone special." Our romance took off. Weekend vacations to Martha's Vineyard, symphony performances, and exclusive dinners. It became our routine. Darius was attentive and generous, constantly bringing lovely gifts and organizing elaborate dates. After 16 months, he proposed with a 6-carat diamond ring over a private dinner on a yacht in Boston Harbor. I answered yes without a second thought. My parents were overjoyed, particularly my mother. She quickly began picturing the ideal wedding. Darius had the resources to make any dream a reality, and Mom insisted we don't hold back. Then there was my younger sister, Odora. We were only 2 years apart, yet our relationship had always been complex. Growing up, we were close, but there was always low-level competition. If I had anything, she wanted it, from toys to friends and attention. If I accomplished something, she had to match or even surpass it. Mom always attempted to keep the peace by giving each of us individual time. Regardless of our history, I chose Odora as my maid of honor. Mom said it would bring us closer, and I wanted to believe that as adults, we had grown beyond juvenile jealousy. When I introduced Odora to Darius during a family meal, she lavished him with praise. I spotted her caressing his arm while smiling at his quips, but I discounted it as Odora's typical charming behavior. We hosted our engagement party at my parents' colonial-style home. Odora assisted Mom with decorations, such as hanging fairy lights and arranging flowers. Throughout the evening, I spotted her staring at Darius across the room, but when our gazes met, she would swiftly grin and raise her glass to me. Later that night, as the visitors were leaving, Mom approached me in the kitchen. "Charlotte, dear," she added, carefully arranging leftover appetizers, "I noticed you seem quite taken with Darius." "She's just being friendly, Mom," I responded, washing champagne flutes. "Besides, she's dating that pharmaceutical rep, Edric. Mom nodded, but did not appear convinced. Just be careful, honey. You know how your sister can get when she sees something she likes. I kissed her cheek, assuring her that everything was well. We're adults now, Mom. Odora's happy for me. I'm sure of it. Oh, how mistaken I was. How awful and devastatingly incorrect. 3 months before our wedding, I began to notice tiny changes in Darius. He started working later, frequently responding to texts at unusual hours, always with the excuse of international clients. Our regular Friday date nights were regularly canceled owing to emergency meetings. When we were together, he appeared inattentive, continually checking his phone and giving just partial attention. More disturbing was how he began to criticize aspects of me that he had previously admired. My laughter was suddenly too loud in public. My favorite blue dress, which he had always liked, now made me appear washed out. Even my habit of reading before bed, which he had previously thought sweet, became bothersome due to the light keeping him awake. Meanwhile, Odora began phoning more frequently, always inquiring about wedding details. I just want everything to be perfect for my big sister, she'd add, even though Mom was doing most of the organizing. Odora even offered to assist with vendor meetings that I couldn't attend due to work responsibilities. Darius and I ate dinner at an upmarket Italian restaurant on a Thursday evening. He hardly made eye contact and responded to my work-related stories with one-word answers. When his phone rang for the 5th time, I had reached my limit. Is there something more important going on elsewhere? I inquired, attempting to maintain a pleasant tone despite my mounting displeasure. Sorry, just work stuff, he said, placing his phone face down. You know how it is before a product launch. Later in the week, when washing laundry, I detected a strange perfume on Darius's collar. It was flowery and thick, unlike the faint scent I wore. When confronted, Darius explained that he had spent the entire day in meetings with a potential investor, Charlotte Brown, who appeared to be wearing strong perfume and embraced him farewell. The explanation appeared plausible. I wanted to believe him. I called my buddy Alina to convey my concerns about coffee the next morning. Every relationship gets jittery before the wedding, Alina informed me as she stirred her cappuccino. Parker and I fought constantly the month before our wedding, and now we've been married 5 years. But the knot in my gut refused to release. Mom saw my uneasiness at our weekly meal. You seem distracted, sweetheart, she murmured, reaching across the table and touching my hand. Wedding stress or something else? I mustered a smile. Just finishing up the arrangements. Everything is fine. But everything was not fine. I began to exert more effort, wondering if perhaps I had been taking Darius for granted. I scheduled a spa day, purchased new lingerie, and tried preparing his favorite foods. He grew increasingly aloof as I tried harder. Then came the cake tasting appointment, which Darius had been looking forward to for weeks. That morning, he called claiming to have an unexpected meeting with investors. Eudora can join you, he said. She knows my preferences anyway. I felt terrible after I hung up. How did my sister know my fiancé's cake preferences better than I did? Nevertheless, I accepted her invitation to join me. The next day, when cleaning Darius's car before a dinner party, I discovered an earring trapped between the passenger seat and the center console, a dangling silver earring with a little sapphire. I immediately recognized it. It was Odora's. My sister had worn the same earrings to my engagement party, a gift from our grandma. When I showed Darius the earring that evening, his expression was wonderfully composed. Oh, your sister must have dropped it when I gave her a ride to the florist last week. His voice rasped. She mentioned losing an earring. You never told me you drove Odora to the florist, I replied, barely above a whisper. Didn't I? It must have slipped my mind. It wasn't important. When I contacted Odora, her statement matched his exactly. Too perfect. Oh, thank goodness. I've been looking everywhere for that earring. Darius was kind enough to drive me since my car was in the shop. That night, I couldn't sleep, my mind racing. Had they prepared their story? Was I paranoid? My weight began to plummet due to stress, and dark bags appeared under my eyes. I started going to a therapist without telling Darius. 3 weeks before the wedding, Darius recommended we postpone. I'm worried about you, Charlotte. You haven't been yourself lately. Maybe we're rushing things. I broke down, imploring him to tell me what was wrong, what I had done, and how I could fix it. He embraced me and assured me that everything was all right, but his eyes were vacant. That night, I awoke at 3 a.m. to discover Darius's side of the bed empty. From the hallway, I could hear his whispered words from the guest bedroom. Not now, she'll hear us. I know. Soon, I promise. The next day, I planned to surprise Darius with lunch at his office. My father, Kelsey, called while I was leaving my apartment. "Charlotte, are you eating properly? Your mother says you've lost too much weight. We're concerned." "I'm fine, Dad. Just pre-wedding jitters. I'm actually bringing Darius lunch right now." "Good. That boy better be treating my daughter like a queen." He would have known. The security man at Darius's building recognized me and waved me through with a smile. On the elevator trip to the 12th floor, I examined my reflection, attempting to smooth the worry creases that had formed between my brows. My lunch bag held Darius's favorite sandwich from the deli across from my workplace. When I arrived at the reception area, Darius's secretary, Muriel, looked up from her computer, her eyes widening in surprise. "Charlotte, we weren't expecting you today." Her attention flickered to Darius's closed office door, then back to me. "Darius is in a meeting right now." "That's okay," I responded, lifting the lunch bag. "I just brought him lunch. I can wait." Muriel instantly blocked my route. "Actually, he specifically asked not to be disturbed. Perhaps I could let him know you're here." Something about her apprehensive demeanor raised my concerns. "Is he alone in there, Muriel?" Her hesitancy revealed all. Before she could react, I moved past her and opened Darius's office door. I'll never forget that scene. Darius leaned against his desk, his hands on my sister's waist, her arms wrapped around his neck, and their lips locked in a passionate kiss. Neither noticed me at first, leaving me several agonizing seconds to process every aspect. Odora's skirt pushed up, Darius nude, and the familiarity in their embrace told of countless previous encounters. When the door closed behind me, they sprung apart, 3 frozen faces in a scene of horror. "Charlotte," Darius responded immediately, adjusting his tie. "This isn't what it looks like." Odora didn't even try such a blatant falsehood. Instead, she raised her chin defiantly. "We didn't plan this. It just happened." The peace that flooded over me was unexpected. "How long?" Darius looked at Odora, then back at me. "Charlotte, let's talk about it privately." "How long?" My voice stayed firm. "For months," Odora said. "Since the engagement party. For months. Nearly half our engagement. While I was picking out wedding invitations and floral arrangements, they had betrayed me." Darius stepped behind his desk, distancing himself physically, as if prepared for a business meeting. "I didn't mean for this to happen, Charlotte. Sometimes feelings change. I was going to tell you after—" "After what? After the wedding? After our honeymoon?" I replied, my voice rising. He was attempting to find the appropriate moment. His voice had the studied smoothness he employed at difficult client meetings. The lunch bag fell from my grasp. "I trusted you both of you." Odora had the grace to appear embarrassed. "It just happened, Becca. We tried to fight it." "Don't call me Becca." The childhood nickname seemed like another offense, and nothing just happens. For 5 months, you made choices. Every secret call, every lie, every time you looked me in the eye, knowing what you were doing. Darius clicked the intercom button. "Muriel, please come in." Morel entered moments later, carefully avoiding my eyes. "Please escort Charlotte out. She's upset." "I'm escorting myself out," I answered, my pride intact, but feeling devastated inside. "You deserve each other." In the elevator, the tears finally flowed. By the time I got to my car, I was hard to breathe through crying. The drive home is a haze. I just recall contacting my mother from my flat, curled up on the bathroom floor, and unable to form meaningful sentences due to my crying. My mother and father arrived within an hour, using their emergency key when I couldn't bring myself to open the door. Mother held me while I told them everything, while father paced the living room, his face turning red with each detail. "I'll kill him," he murmured, his palm covering his heart. "Kelsey, your blood pressure," Mother admonished, while her own face was equally furious. The next few days were spent in a blur of pain. Mother assisted me in contacting vendors to cancel wedding arrangements, while father handled the financial elements. When I returned the engagement ring to Darius's apartment and left it with the doorman, I couldn't stand seeing him. Odora had already moved in. The majority of her things were there, along with family photos arranged on shelves that used to hold mine. Darius's email about distributing our shared assets was coldly efficient, saying that Odora had assisted him in cataloging my remaining items. The betrayal went further than I had thought. Through common friends, I discovered that they had been meeting covertly whenever I worked late or traveled for business. Odora had purposely pursued him, making reasons to visit him alone and sending texts and images while I wasn't around. The scandal immediately spread among our social circles. Some acquaintances supported me, while others backed Darius, noting his power in the business sector. Several people stated that they had spotted Darius and Odora flirting, but had chosen not to intervene. Their cowardice hurt nearly as much as the treachery. During those dark months, my mother became my lifeline. She gave me food when I couldn't eat, listened to my crying rants, and stayed the night when the loneliness got unbearable. She regularly attempted to arbitrate between Odora and me, asking us both to family dinners that inevitably resulted in intense silence or bitter fights. Odora snapped during one of these dinners when I refused to offer her the salt. "You always got everything first, Charlotte. The grades, the job, the apartment. For once, I got something before you did." "My fiancé wasn't a prize to be won," I said, my voice cracking. "He was the man I loved and trusted." Mother put down her fork. "Eudora Marie Thompson, apologize to your sister right now." "For what? Being honest. Darius chose me. He loves me now." I stood, a napkin put on my plate. "I can't do this anymore. Mom, I'm sorry." This was the last family dinner I attended with Odora. The stress of his daughter's feud exacerbated the father's cardiac problems, necessitating medication adjustments and further doctor appointments. Mother grew older in months, the lines around her eyes deepening as she desperately strove to keep her family together. 6 months after uncovering Darius and Odora's deception, I reached rock bottom. My therapist diagnosed me with depression and suggested medication. Work worsened as I struggled to focus, and I eventually lost a large client following a horrible presentation in which I burst into tears. My supervisor recommended a leave of absence, but I realized that staying in Boston, where memories lurked around every corner, would only exacerbate my pain. When a marketing director position arose at our Chicago branch, I applied right away. The interview went fairly well, with my need for change possibly translating as enthusiasm. 2 weeks later, I got the offer. My mother helped me pack my flat, meticulously wrapping photos and souvenirs in tissue paper. As we went through my possessions, determining what to retain and what to donate, she brought up the matter that loomed between us. "Will you ever consider forgiving Odora?" she inquired, sealing a box with packing tape. I proceeded to fold sweaters without glancing up. "I don't know, Mom. Not now. Maybe not ever." "Forgiveness isn't about them deserving it," she explained quietly. "It's about freeing yourself." "I am freeing myself. I'm moving to Chicago." Mother sat alongside me on the bed and took my hands in hers. "Running away isn't the same as healing, sweetheart." Tears filled my eyes. "I need space to even begin to heal. Can you understand that?" She nodded and pulled me into a close hug. "Promise you'll call. Promise you won't shut us out completely." "I promise." Saying farewell to my parents was more difficult than I thought. Father held me for longer than usual, his voice rough and emotional. "You show them, kiddo. Build a life so good they'll choke on their regret." My first few weeks in Chicago were lonely and filled with doubt. My small apartment felt sterile and foreign. I worked long hours to avoid arriving home to empty rooms, eating takeaway at my desk, and falling asleep fatigued every night. Then came the news, which pushed the knife deeper. Mother called on Sunday morning, her voice hesitant. "Charlotte, I feel you should hear this from me rather than social media. Odora and Darius got married yesterday." Darius's business ties ensured coverage for the small civil ceremony, which was published in Boston Magazine Society pages. The accompanying photo showed them beaming outside the courthouse. Odora in a simple white dress, with my former engagement ring proudly visible on her finger. That night was my low point. I drank one entire bottle of wine alone, went through old images of Darius and myself, and cried until my eyes swelled shut. I called in ill for work the next day, unable to face the world. But something changed during those lonely hours alone. As the early light trickled through my blinds, I made a decision. This would be the last day I let them control my happiness. I erased all images of Darius from my phone, blocked both him and Odora on social media, and took a lengthy shower, picturing my pain dripping down the drain. At work, I refocused on my projects. My employer saw the shift and assigned me to larger clientele. I established a reputation for inventiveness and perseverance, winning respect in my new workplace. Marisol Rowan, our HR director, was my first genuine Chicago friend, and she introduced me to her book club. Through her, I met other ladies and gradually formed a social circle. Marisol repeatedly attempted to set me up on dates, but I declined each time. The idea of romantic vulnerability still unnerved me. 4 months after moving to Chicago, I was assigned to represent our company at a technology conference in San Francisco. On the second evening, I attended a business dinner with possible clients where I sat next to Sheann Forrester, a tech investor and entrepreneur who had recently migrated from Seattle. Cian differed from Darius in every way. Cian was subtle and honest, whereas Darius had been flamboyant and appealing. His gentle assurance and thought-provoking questions pulled people in without demanding attention. When he spoke about his work, his enthusiasm was palpable, but never boastful. He asked for my card after dinner, and I handed it to him with no expectations. To my surprise, he emailed me the next morning and asked if I wanted to continue our discussion about digital marketing trends over coffee. Over the next 3 months, Cian and I maintained professional communication. He sent clients to my agency, and I connected him to my Chicago business contacts. Maricel spotted our regular business meals and raised her eyebrows. "He likes you, Charlotte," she explained, "and not just professionally." "We're just colleagues," I said. "Colleagues don't look at each other the way he looks at you." Cian eventually invited me to supper at a place unrelated to work. I panicked and nearly canceled twice before forcing myself to go. I experienced a full-blown panic attack 20 minutes into our date while we were discussing our favorite books. My hands shook, breathing got difficult, and tears filled my eyes. Rather than being ashamed or upset, Cian sat with me and spoke gently until my breathing returned to normal. He drove me home with no pressure or inquiries. The next day, flowers arrived at my office with a letter saying, "No pressure, no expectations. I hope you're feeling better. Cian." That evening, I called and told him everything about Darius and Odora. He listened without interruption, then recounted his own story of heartache from a previous marriage, which ended when his wife left him for his business partner, taking half of their joint firm in the divorce. "Broken trust leaves scars," he remarked. "Anyone worth your time will understand that healing isn't linear." Over the next few months, we began by laying the groundwork for our friendship. Cian never asked for more than I could give, respecting my boundaries while remaining present. For our 5th date, he made dinner at his apartment rather than taking me to a crowded restaurant, which could cause me worry. When terror flared up, he understood precisely how to help me get through it. For the first time since Darius, I began to believe that trust could be restored. 1 year after arriving in Chicago, I scarcely recognized myself. My promotion to senior marketing director came with a corner office that overlooked the river. My circle of friends had grown beyond Maricel to include a number of close confidants. And most strangely, I had fallen deeply in love with Cian. Unlike Darius's flamboyant wooing, Cian's love revealed itself in steady, thoughtful ways. He recalled minor details like my preference for oat milk in my coffee and the true crime podcasts I listened to. He honored my independence while providing unflinching support. Most significantly, he never compared me to others or attempted to change me. I met Cian's sister, Giselle, during her visit from Portland. We quickly bonded, swapping phone numbers and creating our own connection independent of Cian. She told me stories of their upbringing in Seattle, drawing a picture of the youngster who grew into the guy I fell in love with. My contact with my parents remained from a distance. I contacted Mother on a weekly basis, skillfully shifting the topic away from Odora. Father periodically joined these talks, his gruff accent softening as he told me how happy he was for my new beginnings. I went twice that year, timing my visits when Odora and Darius would be away. Mother offered occasional updates on them. Their marriage appeared ideal on social media, with Odora uploading photographs of luxurious vacations and charity galas. Mother stated that they had purchased a large property on Beacon Hill and were undergoing substantial renovations. "Odora occasionally inquires about you," Mother said during a phone call. "What do you tell her?" I inquired, stirring the pasta sauce on my burner. "That you're doing well, that you're building a new life. Does she ever express regret?" Mother sighed in her way. She gets quiet when your name comes up. My therapy continued in Chicago, with my new therapist assisting me in processing the betrayal and establishing healthy relationship patterns. I learned how to identify my triggers and communicate effectively. The nightmares involving Darius and Odora gradually faded. In June, Zevian surprised me with a weekend getaway to Michigan's wine region. We stayed at a lovely bed and breakfast surrounded by vineyards. We spent afternoons wine sampling and evenings viewing the sunset over Lake Michigan. For the first time in years, I felt entirely present and pleased, free of the weight of past betrayal. Zevian paused beneath a trellis covered in climbing roses on our final evening at the Chicago Botanic area, where we were strolling through an early summer blooming area. "Charlotte," he replied, grabbing both of my hands, "this past year, knowing you has been the greatest gift of my life." When he knelt and pulled a ring box from his pocket, panic flashed briefly. Images from Darius's proposal threatened to eclipse this moment. But staring into Zevian's eyes, all I saw was sincerity and affection. "I'm not asking for an answer today," he continued, sensing my uncertainty. "I just want you to know that whenever you're ready, whether that's tomorrow or next year, I'll be here." My eyes filled with tears, but not from fear or agony. "Yes," I whispered. "I'm ready now." The ring looked nothing like the extravagant diamond Darius had given me. A simple emerald with little diamonds on either side, delicate and subtle, much like our love. That night I called my folks to tell them the news. Mother cried happy tears. "He sounds wonderful, darling. When can we meet him?" "Soon," I assured. "Very soon." We planned a small wedding for 30 guests at a historic Chicago venue. At Mother's request, I sent an invitation to Odora, more as a gesture of healing than an expectation of attendance. Her reaction via email was quick and curt. "Congratulations on the engagement. Unfortunately, Darius and I have other engagements on that day. Best wishes for the future." Mother was disappointed, but not shocked. "Give her time, Charlotte. This is progress compared to where you both were." Our wedding day arrived, intimate and joyful, with my parents, new friends, and Xian's relatives there. Father carried me down the aisle, whispering, "I haven't seen you this happy in years, kiddo." Zevian's vows reflected our journey. "Charlotte, I promise to remember that love is both strong and fragile, requiring care and commitment every day. I promise to be worthy of the trust you've given me, knowing how precious and hard a gift that is." We established our lives together in Chicago, purchasing a brownstone and renovating it together. My career progressed, eventually leading to a vice president post. Zevian's investment firm expanded, focused on female-led technology startups. During a dinner with business associates, I learned something that connected the past and present. A venture capitalist acknowledged working with Darius years ago. "Rowan." Yeah, he and Forrester had quite the rivalry in the angel investing space about 7 years back. Forrester backed the right startup. Rowan backed the competitor. Forrester's pick got acquired for millions. Rowan went bankrupt. Later that night, I asked Zevian about the relationship. "I was going to tell you eventually," he confessed. "I knew who you were when we met at that conference. Not the details of what happened, but that you had been engaged to Rowan." "Why didn't you say anything?" "I wanted you to know me for me, not as someone connected to your past." I was not angry. Somehow the cosmic symmetry felt appropriate. 2 years into our marriage, we started trying for a baby. Months passed without success, prompting fertility specialists and uncomfortable conversations. Zevian was my support through disappointments and medical procedures, embracing me through tears, and reminded me that family may take various forms. Then came the tragic news of Mother's cancer diagnosis. Zevian and I flew to Boston right away, meeting with physicians and guiding my parents through treatment options. Mother put up a brave face, but her cancer was severe and had spread. I took a leave from work to care for her, temporarily returning to my boyhood home. Zevian flew in every weekend to support both me and my increasingly frail father. Mother and I had many meaningful chats about life, love, and family in her last weeks. One evening, while I adjusted her pillows, she mentioned Odora. "I wish you girls could find peace with each other," she murmured, her voice weak but determined. "Life is too short for such distance between sisters." "I know, Mom," I said, holding back tears. "Promise me you'll try, Charlotte. Not for her, but for yourself, and maybe a little bit for your old mother." I promised, unsure if I could maintain it, but eager to give her peace. Mother died quietly 3 days later, with Zevian, Father, and I at her bedside. I immediately contacted Odora, our first straight connection in years. "Mom's gone," I remarked when she responded. Her quick inhale was the sole sound for long seconds. "I'll be there in an hour," she finally stated, her voice breaking. We arrived at our parents' house and exchanged brief, awkward hugs before turning our focus to Father and funeral arrangements. The real test would be during the funeral, where years of pain and hatred would collide with new sadness and Mother's ultimate desire. The morning of Mother's burial was dark and drizzling, fitting the solemn occasion. I stood in front of the mirror in my childhood bedroom, adjusting my black dress and wondering how I'd get through the day. Zevian stood behind me, attractive in his dark suit, and softly placed his hands on my shoulders. "I'm right beside you today," he murmured, matching my gaze in the reflection. Whatever happens downstairs, Father sat at the kitchen table, staring at his untouched coffee. The preceding week had hollowed him out, and his lofty form bent in despair. At 72, he appeared to have aged a decade since Mother's diagnosis. "Ready, Dad?" I whispered softly, patting his shoulder. He nodded and rose slowly. Always said, funerals aren't for the dead, they're for the living. Never understood that until now. When we arrived, the funeral home had already filled up with extended family and friends. I stayed close to Father, greeting everyone with fake smiles and accepting condolences from individuals I scarcely knew. Cousins from California, Mother's college companion, and neighbors from my parents' 40-year house. You look just like Lara at your age, my great-aunt Cheryl murmured, caressing my cheek. She would be proud of the woman you've become. How have you been, dear? Mother asked her friend Junior. Ara mentioned you moved away. Chicago, was it? Yes, almost 5 years now, I said, not mentioning my sister's betrayal as the reason for the move. As I took Father to his place in the front row, Zevian on his opposite side, a murmur echoed across the crowd. I turned to see Odora and Darius enter, prompting heads to turn and rumors to spread. Odora wore an elegant black dress that accentuated her tiny frame, with diamond earrings reflecting the sun. Darius appeared uncomfortable in his nicely fitted suit, his arm around my sister's waist in a show of support. Her left hand was conspicuously placed on her pocketbook, making the huge diamond engagement ring and wedding band impossible to overlook. Father stiffened beside me. Kelsey, breathe, I said, frightened for his heart. They made their way ahead, pausing to chat with other attendees. I kept my gaze fixed on the enormous portrait of Mother displayed alongside her closed casket, her warm smile calming some of my nerves. They eventually reached the front. Odora hugged Father, who returned it stiffly. Darius shook his hand and received merely a short nod in return. Charlotte, Odora remarked, turning to me with a look I couldn't read. It's been a long time. Yes, I said simply, not trusting myself to say more. Darius nodded hesitantly. Sorry for your loss. Zevian had moved away to speak with the funeral director, leaving me alone with them. Odora took the opportunity. I need to speak with you privately, she explained, gesturing into a side room. Against my better judgment, I followed her, hoping to avoid a scene at Mother's burial. The small space only had a couple chairs and a box of tissues, plainly meant for mourners who needed private moments. Odora closed the door behind us. Up close, I noticed small creases around her eyes that her expensive cosmetics couldn't hide. You look thin, she said, her gaze scrutinizing me. Grief does that, I answered plainly. She fiddled with her ring and twisted it around her finger. Darius and I bought a summer house on Cape Cod last month. 8 bedrooms, private beach access. We're considering starting a family soon. Darius's company just acquired 2 startups and we're renovating the 3rd floor for a nursery. Congratulations, I murmured, my voice free of emotion. Is there something specific you wanted to discuss about the funeral arrangements? Her smile became harsh. I just thought you might want to know how well we're doing. Poor you, still alone at 38. I got the man, the money, and the mansion. The familiar pain flared quickly and then disappeared. 6 years ago, her remarks would have crushed me. Today, they appeared sad and forlorn. I grinned genuinely. Have you met my husband yet? I opened the door to find Zevian standing nearby. Come meet my sister. As Zevian entered the room, Darius came behind him, apparently having observed our discussion. When the males established eye contact, Darius's face turned pale. Forrester, he murmured, his confidence fading. Rowan. Zevian's tone was professional but chilly. It's been what, 7 years? Not since Macintosh acquired Initech instead of your client Compervay, right? Darius swallowed visibly. You 2 are married? 2 wonderful years now, I replied, sliding my hand into Zevian's. Zevian Forrester, Odora said softly, as in Forrester Investments. The same, Zevian responded. Charlotte and I met at a tech conference in San Francisco. Darius sought to regain his composure. Forrester, we should catch up sometime. I've been meaning to reach out about potential collaborations. My schedule is quite full, Zevian said politely but firmly, but you can contact my office if you'd like. The funeral director appeared and informed us that the service was about to begin. As we returned to the main room, rumors followed us. The connection between Zevian and Darius was well known in business circles. We had scarcely taken our seats when Father grasped his chest, his face contorted with pain. Dad! I shouted as Zevian instantly called for assistance. We relocated Father to a private room, and the funeral was temporarily postponed. A doctor among the attendees checked him and said that the cause was most likely stress rather than another heart attack. Odora followed us with genuine concern on her face. Is he okay? Should we call an ambulance? Her voice trembled slightly. The doctor says he's stable, I said, taken aback by her truthfulness. Just overwhelmed. For 20 minutes, we sat there in awkward silence, linked only by our concern for our father. When he insisted on continuing with the service, we returned to the main chamber, with the brief crisis resulting in an unexpected truce. The funeral was both beautiful and tragic. I offered a eulogy that emphasized Mother's kindness, courage, and steadfast love for her family. When Odora rose to speak after me, she hesitated after only a few sentences, her eyes welling with tears. Without thinking, I stepped to her side and rested my hand on her back. "It's okay," I said quietly. "Take your time." She composed herself and finished her homage to our mother with anecdotes from our childhood that elicited tears and soft laughter from the audience. As we placed Mother to rest in the cemetery, a gentle rain poured. I noticed Darius standing apart from the rest of the group, checking his watch constantly. Odora stayed by Father's side, her previous swagger replaced by sincere anguish. The reception at my parents' house was filled with people bringing casseroles and sharing memories. Darius drank considerably, and his uneasiness was obvious as numerous business associates engaged Zevian in animated conversation. I overheard pieces of Darius's company failing with recent acquisitions and wondered whether Odora's bravado was a mask for financial problems. Throughout the day, I kept the dignity Mother would have expected, focusing on supporting Father and honoring her memory rather than lingering on previous scars. As visitors began to leave, I noticed Odora observing me from across the room, her look unreadable but seemingly softer than before. The day following the funeral, Zevian had an important board meeting in Chicago. "Are you sure you'll be okay if I go?" he said, preparing his overnight bag. "I can reschedule." "Dad needs help sorting through Mom's things," I explained. "I should stay a few more days." "I'll be fine." After dropping Zevian off at the airport, I returned to my parents' house to find Father sitting in Mother's garden with a photo album open on his lap. "She labeled everything," he explained, displaying to me Mother's clean handwriting beneath each photo. Said, "Someday we'd appreciate knowing who is who." That afternoon, I started the unpleasant chore of sorting through Mother's closet. Each dress evoked memories. The blue one from my college graduation, the flowery print she wore to Sunday brunches, and the exquisite gray she chose for my engagement celebration. I found myself talking to her while I worked, telling her about my life in Chicago, my job, and my happiness with Zevian. In her nightstand drawer, I noticed a soft leather-bound journal. Mother had kept a journal inside for the past 10 years. Many people addressed her daughters, her desire for our reunification, and her anguish about the schism between us. The last entry, dated only 2 weeks before her death, read, "My greatest regret is leaving with my girls still estranged. Ara always fixed things, but I couldn't fix this. I pray they find their way back to each other somehow." I was wiping away tears when the doorbell rang. Odora was standing alone on the porch when I looked out the front window. There was no sign of Darius's car in the driveway. Father had gone to his brother's house for dinner, leaving me alone with my sister. I opened the door, not sure what to expect. "Hi," she said simply. "Can I come in?" In the kitchen, I made coffee while Odora sat quietly at the table. She appeared different without Darius by her side, smaller, less fake. "Where's Darius?" I finally asked, setting a mug in front of her. "At home. He doesn't know I'm here." She wrapped her hands around the mug but didn't sip. The stillness stretched between us. Years of unspoken words created a tangible barrier. "I'm sorry about yesterday," she finally said. "What I said in that room at the funeral home, it was cruel and completely inappropriate." I nodded, acknowledging her apology but not instantly accepting it. "I saw Mom's journal," she added. "Dad showed it to me last night. Her last wish was for us to reconcile." "I found it too," I said. "But reconciliation requires more than just proximity, Odora. It needs honesty." She looked up, tears in her eyes. "You want honesty? Here's honesty. I'm miserable, Charlotte. I have been almost since the beginning." The dam cracked, and words poured forth between sobs. Darius had changed quickly after their wedding, becoming domineering and critical. His company had been failing for years, and each new acquisition was an attempt to save a sinking ship. The mansions, automobiles, and holidays were all financed with rising debt. Their marriage was a carefully crafted front for business connections and social status. "He monitors my spending, checks my phone, questions my every movement," she told me. "The Darius you knew doesn't exist anymore. Maybe he never did." "Why stay?" I inquired. "Shame," she replied promptly. "How could I admit what I'd done to you?" destroyed our family for something that turned out to be a mirage, and then there's the prenup. I leave with nothing. I moved Mother's journal across the table and read the rest of her entries. Eudora shed more tears as she read. She finally looked up, her face raw with passion. She knew. She saw through everything. Mom always did, I agreed. Eudora, I murmured. I have hated myself for years. Every time Mom mentioned you, she gladly highlighted your accomplishments. I felt the consequences of what I'd done. Charlotte, I'm intending to leave him. I have been privately consulting a lawyer. My emotions were mixed with a sense of vindication and unexpected tenderness. The sister who had caused me so much pain was facing consequences I would not wish on anyone. I do not expect forgiveness, she continued. I do not deserve it, but I needed to tell you. We spent the next several hours together, going through Mother's possessions, sharing sad and loving memories. Eudora recalled her mother teaching us how to prepare cookies and how she never mixed the various batches because I favored chocolate chip and Eudora chose sugar cookies. Eudora remarked, laughing through tears. Remember how she used to leave notes in our lunch boxes? Different messages every day. I nodded. She never repeated one. We were not quickly healed. The wounds were too deep for immediate closure. But when dusk set, something changed between us, with Mother's love forming a delicate bridge over years of hurt. What will you do? I inquired as Eudora prepared to depart. File for divorce when my lawyer says the timing is right. Rent a small apartment. Start over. She was standing at the entrance. What about you? Will you go back to Chicago? Yes, my life is there now with Xavier. You seem happy, she said, rather than asking a question. I am truly happy. I'm glad, she added. One of us should be. We exchanged quick, awkward hugs before she went. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a start. Back in Chicago, I settled into life with Xavier, the brownstone, and a fulfilling career. 6 months after my mother's passing, I learned I was pregnant. After years of trying, the moment's elation was tinged by regret, knowing she would not be able to meet her grandchild, but I sensed her presence at peaceful moments. Eudora and I maintained careful touch via phone calls. She had filed for divorce and relocated to a modest apartment, working at a tiny marketing agency. The gossip and censure she encountered in Boston's social circles were difficult, but she appeared determined to rebuild authentically. The route that brought me here was not one I would have chosen. Losing Darius looked to be the end of my world, but it was actually the start of a far better one. With Xavier, I discovered not just love, but also partnership, respect, and unfailing support. His success never overwhelmed mine. Rather, it complemented it, and we grew stronger together. Mother had been correct in stating that forgiveness is for ourselves rather than others. The weight of wrath and bitterness had gradually lifted, allowing me to see my past clearly and my future with optimism. Although the wounds lingered, they no longer defined me. As I sat in our nursery, Xavier painting the walls a soothing green, I considered the things I would eventually teach our child. How loss can lead to finding. How endings make space for new beginnings. How our most difficult experiences frequently lead us to our real path. My life had become richer and more authentic than I could have dreamed during those sad days 6 years ago. Not because of the betrayal, but because it forced me to rebuild with greater insight and aim.